It is the carjacking that inspired the word. A doctor and her baby attacked, then clinging to the vehicle. The carjackers dragged the mother for 2 miles.
20 years later, the wounds are still fresh. And now, for the first time ever, Steve Basu tells his family's story. The story Washington can never forget.
This is 9 News Now.
A young mother preparing to take her daughter to her first day of preschool met a fate so cruel it's still hard for people to comprehend it.
This vicious crime became the singular event that would define the term carjacking. Decades later, the wounds are still fresh for the family of Dr. Pam Basu. Leslie Foster is here with their story. Leslie.
Well, Anita and Derek, in 1992, back in September, Dr. Pam Basu endured the kind of brutality none of us want to think about, all for her car. Tonight, her husband speaks out for the first time about the wife he loved, the daughter he nearly lost, and details you've never heard before about that awful day 20 years ago. It's a story you'll see only on 9.
This is Serena's first day at school.
For 22-month-old Serena Basu, September 8th, 1992 was a day of new beginnings, the first day of preschool.
Serena was very excited and Pam was talking to her.
The daughter they adopted from India was about to have another milestone.
Bye.
They got in the car and, they went and I stopped taping.
Steve and the new babysitter were going to meet Pam and Serena at her new school.
I told Dita that it's kind of weird. There's a shoe on the street.
The same shoe Dr. Pam Basu, a 34-year-old mother and scientist, wore that morning. She would only drive 300 feet from her Savage, Maryland home that day before she was attacked by 2 men at a stop sign who wanted her 1990 BMW.
At that stop sign, Rodney Solomon runs over and punches Pam through the open window.
James Lilly gives a moment-by-moment account of that chilling encounter in a new book called Fatal Destiny.
Bernard Miller, who was standing over in this little median, ran across to help Solomon get Pam out of the car.
Pam jumped up, reached through the window in a frantic effort to try to get to her daughter Serena, but her arm got caught in the driver's side seatbelt. And soon she would be dragged by the 2 men who sped off in her car.
She's screaming, "My baby, my baby." One of the eyewitnesses said he saw her tumble forward and her head strike the ground.
This grisly trail would last for nearly 2 miles. While Solomon and Miller dragged Pam to her death, they stopped here, stepped over Pam's body, and tossed her daughter Serena out on the side of the road. Luckily, someone driving behind them got the toddler to safety. But no one could save Pam.
It was very horrific, and that's the only word to describe it.
Retired Officer Jody Lilly was the first person on the scene. She found Pam's mangled body.
Had I been on my game, I probably would have picked something up.
In this video, never broadcast before, as Pam puts Serena in her car seat, Rodney Solomon walks by, followed by Bernard Miller. Steve had unknowingly picked up his wife's killers on camera.
Maybe it was because of the nature of the day, I got careless.
Pam's 2 killers were captured after a reign of terror that shook the D.C. area and the nation.
A carjacking turned into a killing.
What do you do for somebody that would throw a baby out a window?
Rodney, you have any regrets?
Rodney Solomon and Bernard Miller were arrested and put on trial. Miller thought for sure he would get away with murder.
He said, "They're going to find me not guilty."
These guys had no remorse, had no sense of what they've done.
Solomon and Miller were convicted and sentenced to life in prison.
Text me when you get on.
Steve and Serena were left to live a life without their beloved Pam.
And it took a long time for all of us to, get moving again.
Nearly 20 years later, Steve struggles with the senseless violence that stole his wife, gripped a community, and left broken families in its wake.
As Indian wedding goes, it was very small.
But he also clings to the good memories.
This was what, the happiest day of your life?
Certainly one of them.
Steve knows Pam would be proud of their daughter Serena. He hopes his wife will be remembered for more than just one tragic moment in time.
She was probably the smartest person in the room. And yet she acted like she was just a kid. Really loving mother and had a lot of heart. She had a lot of heart.
Pam and Steve's daughter Serena will graduate from college later this year. Rodney Solomon got life plus 60 years for killing Pam. Bernard Miller got life with the possibility of parole because he was 16 at the time of the crime. His efforts to get parole have failed to date.
And I guess we ought to note that this crime was just so brutal for what happened after Pam was dead.
Oh yeah, they continued to brutalize Pam even after she died. They drove into a barbed wire fence trying to get her body off, left her in the middle of the road, as I told you, and then drove to a car wash to attempt to wash away the rest of her remains. And all these years later, everybody associated with has the same question: why?
Right, why?
Why didn't you just give her the baby? That's all she wanted. She said, my baby, not my car, my car. And they never, ever gave her the baby.
Wow, and still no explanation from those two.
Still no explanation. We may never know the answer.
All right, Leslie.
What a story.
Very powerful story. Thank you.
Thank you.